Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Living Sufism. Such a joy and a meaningful joy to be able to do this with you today, especially now as the spring is taking hold and flowers begin to bloom and life begins to assert itself, to feel ourselves also a part of that resurgence, the reemergence of life, to recognize that we are that too, and to have the support and encouragement of all of us together to do that. Welcome. As we begin, I'd like to answer the simple question, why are we here? What are we doing here? What is this about? What is it for? Well, each of us has our own valid answer. But if I were to try to provide a response that sort of covered our intention, our sense of direction here, I would say that we're here to explore and deepen our ability to respond to the situation in the world today in the way that Pir Elias has encouraged us, continues to encourage us to do so. And that is, as he puts it, can we stay open, steady, and creative in the face of what can legitimately be characterized as dire circumstances? I know this is hard to process because most of us woke today in a world that doesn't seem dire. The sun may be shining. We had water to make coffee. We opened the window, stepped outside, breathed the air. It seemed like it was fine in the world. What do you mean dire circumstances? And yet, it is that very tendency to take the present moment as sort of, this is it, this is all there is, and not to realize that we truly are, as a planet, as a civilization, as communities, facing some extremely difficult challenges. Our intention in doing this series is to suggest that we sit in that realization that we are facing dire circumstances and challenge ourselves to remain open, steady, and creative, in spite, or maybe because, or with these circumstances. And in approaching this topic, our journey so far has asked us to think about staying open in terms of the undefended heart. That's really what open means, and that's a very good way to think of the undefended heart. And I know that most of you, and I'm guessing that most of you, don't feel like you have a defended heart. You're friendly, you're kind, you tend to be compassionate. And yet, in subtle ways, and sometimes insidious ways, the inability to deal with what's going on around us begins to layer a shell over the heart. The Sufis call it rust on the mirror of the heart. And the simple truth is that you may think that it's okay to be defended against the political and social upheavals, the nastiness in the world. But if we're defended there, we're also defended here. And I believe that Elias suggests that really an undefended heart is an undefended heart. It's undefended to the world and it's undefended to oneself. Undefended to oneself, so that when one makes a mistake, we go, oh, I just made a mistake, oh, forgive me, because I'm not defending myself. What does it mean to be steady? Well, we're suggesting that staying open steady is finding what matters. What matters becomes the the rudder, the stabilizing premise of one's life, the rooted grounding of purpose. When we find what matters, we become steady. And because we have, I hope, through our chilla, developed or are developing the habit of really asking ourselves, what matters right now? What matters right now? That question will help us to get back to steady, even when we're knocked off. It's, oh, what matters now? Oh, this is what really matters now, not this. And what does it mean to be creative? Open, steady, creative. Well, what we offer today is doing the beautiful. And that is the ultimate act of creativity, doing the beautiful. What does that mean? How do we do that? Well, hopefully today we can explore that a little bit through some contemplations, some conversations, and some offerings from our side that will help us at least begin to actively inquire into what does it mean to do the beautiful? Am I doing the beautiful? Do I do the beautiful? There is, in my opinion, no more creative act than doing the beautiful, because it creates something in the world. It creates a fabric, a vibration, a tonality, a music, an attitude. So today we'll explore doing the beautiful. I'd like to remind us that we're doing that within a certain context. This is Sufism. Right? And while each of us will do whatever we want to do with whatever happens or doesn't happen to us today, our intention and our grounding and our, I use this word tenderly, our authority is in channeling our understanding in a contemporary setting of Sufism, of living Sufism today. That's a big topic, but I can say in terms of the work we're doing, there's two dimensions here that are important for us to keep in play, to keep in view, to keep in heart. One is that Sufism is transformative. It's about transformation. And that means that we're not here just, and God bless us if you happen to feel better because you're here, yes, great, that's wonderful, but that's not our purpose. Our purpose is to encourage each and every one of us to change the world by changing ourselves. Change is the wrong word. Transforming ourselves. This is the essence of Sufism, and why what we're doing is not just, advanced psychology. It is that, but it's also Sufism, primarily Sufism. Sufism is not only focused on transformation, it is also implicitly transpersonal, which means that if you think that you changing the world is too big a job for you, you're right. We're not doing it alone. Transpersonal means that in accepting our place in a Sufi community, we are accessing energies, influences, guidance, wisdom, love, and light beyond the self. Right here, transpersonal amongst us. The more that we understand that we are all in this together and that we can draw strength from one another and look for guidance from one another, the more we move out of ourselves, the more we realize, oh, of course I couldn't do this by myself. And ultimately, Sufism, and certainly the Sufi way, is encouraging us to discover the ultimate transpersonal relatedness to the entirety of life and through life itself to the originator of life, however you want to call her. I call her the beloved. That's a simple, easy way to do that. You can call it God if you want. Sure, if that worked for you. Truth, love, pure awareness. Again, Sufism is not just about acknowledging that that's there and praying to it. God bless us, we can do that. It's about accessing it so that it flows through us, so that the enormous challenge that humanity is facing, to be solved by each and every human being, is not undoable because we're not doing it alone and we're not doing it under our own personal auspices. I just wanted to bring that back into focus because we might sort of float above that. This is about transformation and accessing transpersonal, if you want to call it that, energies, influences, life, love. We're going to begin with a couple of simple but powerful contemplations whose purpose is to help us realign, retune, awaken, restore our relationship to beauty. Let's begin. Pundaka.
Hello, everyone. Good to be with you. And I will be doing a meditation on beauty, for which you can either stand or sit. The advantage of standing is that at the end of the meditation, I will ask you to make a movement and a sound, but it's the movement that is important here, that requires you to be spontaneous and let the movement flow out of you. It's a bit easier if you're standing, obviously. But if you are comfortable standing, by all means sit down. I too have to sit because I have to speak to you. So either way, it's fine, but just make sure your posture is open and relaxed. And if you are sitting, please make sure that both your feet are on the ground. So let's start with closing our eyes. And I'm asking you to become aware of your breath. We'll just take a few moments connecting to our breathing in and out. And as we do that, we make contact with our body. And as you're breathing in and out, become aware of the rising and falling of your chest, and also of your belly, rising and falling with your breath. And become aware of your heart beating its own rhythm. Listen for the beat of your heart. And feel the ground under your feet. And feel how the energy of the earth is flowing through your feet into your body. Breathe and become aware of how the energy is flowing in through your breathing and through your feet on the ground and through the air that surrounds you. Breathing in the energy and releasing energy as you breathe out. I am now going to say a few phrases, and please just listen when I say a phrase for the first time. But then silently repeat with me when I say the phrase for the second time. I open to beauty before me and beauty behind me. I open to beauty before me and beauty behind me. I open to beauty to the left of me and beauty to the right of me. I open to beauty to the left of me and to the right of me. I open to beauty beneath me and above me. I open to beauty beneath me and above me. I open to beauty within me and around me. I open to beauty within me and to beauty around me. I open to beauty flowing in and out, to beauty flowing from left and right. I open to beauty flowing from underneath and above, to beauty flowing within and around. I open to beauty flowing in and out, to beauty flowing from left and right, to beauty flowing from underneath and above. I open to beauty flowing within and around. Beauty surrounds me, and I open to beauty. Beauty surrounds me, and I open to beauty. Beauty is flowing, and beauty flows through me. Beauty is flowing through my body into movement and into sound and into an expression into our world. And as I repeat this phrase, please allow yourself to express that flow into a movement and a sound right now. And then please repeat it several times in your own rhythm. Beauty is flowing through my body into movement and into sound and into an expression into the world. Ya. 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 Please, if you were standing, please sit down again. And let's go back to watching our breath.
Thank you, Kundika. Our next practice, to follow that beautiful practice from Kundika, is a meditation based on and developed from the Taoist practice of Master Lin Ji. He was a Taoist master who practiced and taught in China in the Tang dynasty over 1,000 years ago. So back in our chairs, with our feet flat on the floor, connected to the earth, our spine upright, connecting through the top of our head to the heavens, with our eyes open to the world around us, in front, to the left, to the right, attending to our breathing. Let us breathe in the gentle yin breath, the breath of gentle receptivity. And holding that breath, sense it circulate throughout our whole body, flowing through us. Then breathing out the yang breath, following your breath into movement, into the world. Again, we breathe and gently receive the world of beauty that surrounds us. We feel the outer world circulate in and through us. And then we breathe out, contributing to the world around us. And just sense how these three breaths are in balance, taking in the beauty of the world. It's circulating through us, breathing it back in new form into the world around us. Now, with our eyes open, I invite you to allow your eyes to alight on something beautiful, whether in your room or out through the window. It may be an object or a picture on your wall, maybe something inanimate or something animate. It could even be your hand. When you have been chosen by something to contemplate, I invite you to take a breath, and on the first breath, see the beauty of the form of that object. And on the second breath, to see the beauty of the harmony of the object and how it connects in form with itself and the world around it. And on the third breath, to see through the object to the source of the beauty that flows through it and creates it in this moment for the delectation of your eyes. Now, I invite you to close your eyes, to stop seeing the object, while still breathing that object into your own being. And on the next breath, to let go of being the person seeing. And sense the beauty as the object and you become one. How beautifully it enters me, this breath. And how beautifully it leaves again. And I invite you to slowly come back to join the beauty of this community here, now, together.
So, hello, everyone. I'm Jean Rana, and I'm here today to lead you from these two deep meditations about beauty to some thoughts about doing the beautiful. So, what does it mean, really, to do the beautiful? Rumi says it, let the beauty you love be what you do. Well, how do we do that? I want to talk about that a little bit. I think that doing the beautiful begins by recognizing beautiful actions that have been done by others. Beautiful actions are happening all the time around us. Some examples from my life from the last couple of weeks. The way the worker at the grocery store checkout counter caught my eye and said, "Have a nice day." The way the waitress smiled when she brought food to the table. The ease with which the young man on the crowded bus got up and offered me his seat. We Sufis often talk about adab. Perhaps adab is related to doing the beautiful. So we can learn to recognize beautiful actions. We can train ourselves to become more aware of the kind and graceful actions of others. We just need to pay attention. And this can bring us a feeling of well-being and content. But how do we do the beautiful? I believe we are already doing beautiful actions. Sometimes things as simple and ordinary as the way we cut an orange, how we listen to a friend, how we take a walk, how we arrange flowers in a vase, how we arrange words on the page. In writing poetry, one of my aims is for beauty, and this has changed my life. I admit to you that I have developed a beauty bias. I look for it everywhere. I find solace, comfort, and satisfaction in noticing the beautiful in objects and in actions. So John Keats, a British romantic poet, said, "Beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That's all you know on earth and all you need to know." Beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That's all you know on earth and all you need to know. Well, this could be my motto. So after years of looking for and noticing the beautiful, I feel like I'm just now learning how to recognize when I'm doing the beautiful. So how do I do the beautiful? Well, I act as if I'm doing the beautiful. Act as if. When I'm in my body, quiet, present, when my mind is not also busy doing other things, beauty can happen. Actually, I don't do anything. I've begun to see that I can be a conduit, a channel for beauty. Beauty is happening all the time. I'm learning to allow myself to see it and to be affected by it. And then somehow I become part of it. I'm continually learning or opening, being receptive to, sensitive to the beautiful. That, you could say, is my doing. Now, the idea that we have to do something with effort to do the beautiful is exactly the opposite of what Elias in Free Medicine writes. In a chapter called Doing the Beautiful, he states that doing the beautiful perhaps means responding with complete freshness, unencumbered by effort of any kind. And perhaps in doing beautiful doing, there is no doer or doing at all. That's the quote, and I'll read the quote again. Responding with complete freshness, unencumbered by effort of any kind. And perhaps in beautiful doing, there is no doer or doing at all. I like that. I like that quote. Beauty happens, and perhaps beautiful actions exist without any ego, without any insistence that I am doing the beautiful. Beauty is doing itself, and I'm just a willing partner I am showing up for beauty. After I've read you a poem, we're going to go into breakout groups. And in your groups of 3 or 4, you will have 20 minutes to explore the instruction I give you. Now, please remember to change to gallery view so you can see each other. You will receive a 2-minute warning before we return to the large group. So this is a poem. This is my offering to you today. This is a poem I wrote 20 years ago, which I think still shines a light on ways you can do the beautiful. We can do the beautiful. The title is What We Need to Do Now, an Invitation. What we need to do now, an invitation. Shall we not carry comfort in our handbags? Walk in time with our breath. Observe falling leaves. Catch the rhythm of tides. Sleep in moonlit, moonless nights. Pray for dreams. Shall we not carry on as we are able? Walk this side of despair. Observe our place in the great order. Catch our breath at beauty. Sleep to renew ourselves. Pray for forgiveness. Shall we not carry the old, the young, the sick? Walk in another's path to understand them. Observe rituals for the turning of the year. Catch only what we need. Sleep when our work is complete. Pray for peace. Shall we not continue? Shall we? The instruction for your breakout group is: tell your group members of an experience when you found yourself participating in doing the beautiful, when a beautiful action was happening. And I'll say that twice. Tell your group members of an experience when you found yourself participating in doing the beautiful, when a beautiful action was happening. So remember to turn on gallery view to see each other, and Carol will now be moving you into small groups. Enjoy this beautiful experience.
For these first few sessions of Living Sufism, we've used from the notes from the Open Path from Pir Elias, the notes entitled World Worry. And this has included an exploration of the undefended heart, finding what matters, and today, doing the beautiful. I'm going to wander a bit through the last piece of the writing from World Worry, in which Pir Elias explores briefly this idea of doing the beautiful. What I'm doing here with Elias's words is finding a way to make them my own, to find meaning, value in them for my life, to make them alive, not just as an intellectual or even spiritual appreciation, to make them something more than that for me. So Elias says at the very beginning of this section, he says, following what matters is the essence of the Sufi principle of ihsan, which translates, he says, as doing the beautiful. This is key for me in this small bit of writing, the Sufi principle of ihsan, doing the beautiful. That is an accurate and a wonderful definition. Ihsan also suggests to perfect something, to bring to completion. A further exploration of ihsan might offer that it is a matter of taking one's inner faith and showing in deed, in action, a sense of social responsibility. Doing the beautiful, bringing to completion, taking one's inner faith and showing an outer sense of responsibility. A little further along, Elias wrote, when Dostoevsky wrote, "Beauty will save the world," he was saying, that is, Dostoevsky was saying, among other things, that beauty matters. You know, how can we argue that? Beauty matters. Of course, beauty matters. And yet, I find myself wanting to challenge this idea, this passive idea that beauty matters, by referring to the quote which we heard earlier from Jeannie as well, from Rumi, that let the beauty you love be what you do. For in this moment, and this is right now, for me in this moment, it isn't really that beauty saves the world, but it does feel to me that to do the beautiful saves me and you and the world. So how does this work, this doing the beautiful? Well, Elias said, the beautiful act, doing the beautiful, is an act that fits what a situation calls for, an act that rises spontaneously when the heart recognizes what matters. Jeannie gave some wonderful examples of that. And I think I want to tell a little story. Some of my friends have heard this story from me, but I want to tell this story about a totally spontaneous moment of doing the beautiful. So I'm very fond of coffee, as many of my friends know, and I'm fond of stopping at Starbucks. And here in the States, at least, Starbucks has a drive-through. You can drive in, make your order, pick it up, and drive on. Very convenient. So one day I drive in, I order my coffee, and as I drive up to the place to pick it up, there's this habit that these young people, at least in the Northwest where I live in the US, they have these words that they drop all the time, words like perfect and beautiful. You know, you give an order, they say perfect. They say, oh, that's beautiful. So anyway, as I reach and receive the drink and I put it away, the girl says the word beautiful. And without thinking at all, I turn to her and say, did you just call me beautiful? And she smiles and says, very happily and brightly, yes. And I looked at her and I said, you know, nobody has called me beautiful since I was a baby in my mother's arms. We had the greatest laugh together about that. Now, that could have gone badly in so many ways, but somehow I knew, in a way that I can't describe, that I could say that, I could ask her that question, and that she would respond in the way she did. And it was in her response that it became beautiful. A moment. Well, Elias goes on to suggest that to do the beautiful isn't about planning and thinking, and I would certainly agree, because what happened for me with the Starbucks girl, there was no planning or thinking at all. He suggests it's about, as we have attempted to lay out over these last few months, it is about undefending our hearts. It is about finding what matters. I hear these words and I love them, But I want to ask why, or how does this work, or what does it look like? Referring to the Rumi quote, Elias says, this is advice, this Rumi quote, this is advice we cannot remember too often in the context of transforming our world worry, transforming our world worry, our concern for the perilous condition of the planet and human civilization. In the context of transforming our world worry into a path of healing, I cannot think of a more succinct instruction. And there is another key for me. Isan was the first. Healing. This word speaks to me. This is what I need. This is what the world needs. Excuse me. And this world never ends. This word, this need never ends. This is doing the beautiful. I find myself thinking, this is to do beauty. In each step I take, each action as I move through my life as an act of healing, if I see that, what impact does that have on me? Upon those I meet along my way, even upon the world. Each step I take, each action I make, each word I speak, each word I hear, these are acts of healing. Wow. I don't seek an answer to that question at this moment. I want to remember it, though. I want to find a way to keep it before me. As we approach the end of this essay, Elias says, here we might find an answer to the question, can we be awake to the enormous ecological and social disruption that's happening now and still live happy and beautiful and fulfilled lives? What a big question. Yes, he says, but as I read this, and again, faith tells me to say, as he does, yes, but I find myself asking, how? How does that work? And I find an answer, in this moment at least, here. In his words, if a world abundant with life is to be seeded by us, it will not grow from anxiety or despair. And there is another key for me, this word seeded. I seed the world with my thoughts and my actions. And suddenly I see this seeding as service, as being present in each moment with my heart undefended, allowing what really matters to become apparent to me. And in that, and in each step onward, I am, through the service I offer, in any way I can, seeding the future, as Elias says, in the fertile soil of our undefended hearts, and finding and doing what is beautiful. So Isan, doing the beautiful, finding completion, a perfect completion in some way, and finding an inner strength to manifest outer responsibility. And healing, each step I take, each word I utter, each action is an offering of healing and seeding. All that I do, I seed the world for a time when I won't be here, but for something and for someone in the future. In closing, I want to make one final offering. This one, not from Elias or from me, but from my friend Sharif Hawkins. Beauty, he says, beauty draws us back into relationship with the living, breathing world around us. A communion that starts in the heart, flows through our body, and is felt in the fibers of our being. Once more, Beauty draws us back into relationship with the living, breathing world around us. A communion that starts in the heart, flows through our body, and is felt in the fibers of our being. We're on?
Thank you, Risha. Very helpful, I think, in recognizing how subtle and deep the whole prospect of doing the beautiful actually is. And so here we are, again, wanting to offer some guidance and suggestions about how do we carry this forward. I imagine that some of you, if not all of you, in this moment may be feeling, oh yes, thank you for undefending my heart. I've really felt open in this session. And some of you may be feeling, yes, this is what really matters, this. And some of you may feel, I hope you feel, I'm going to doing the beautiful. And all of those intentions and feelings are extremely important and helpful to the degree that they actually result in our doing. So we're going to offer a chilla. A chilla is different from an exercise because it is a Sufi practice, a way to bring into play the transformation and the transpersonal dimension that I mentioned earlier. It is, in my opinion, extremely important that these chilla be taken seriously. If we're truly interested in transformation and in reaching into those transpersonal dimensions of our own being, I don't think it will just, that listening and thinking and talking will do it. I think we've got to go further, and this is the purpose of chilla. Chilla brings into play a transformational potential, and because chillas are created by teachers who can channel the baraka, they offer access to the transpersonal. In my own personal life, I know that my practices wane and wax depending on my state of being. You know, and you can see that over the course of this series so far, we have deliberately shied away from the litany of disasters. We haven't been talking very much explicitly about the dire circumstances we are all in. There's plenty of that all around us. And yet, unless we become fully cognizant of how urgent and how serious this is, we may not find the motivation to follow through with these practices. So in that spirit, we have actually created a whole catalog of practices for doing the beautiful so that you could enter in any way that is useful for you. However, I thought, let me begin by offering one that was actually created by Sharif Hawkins, because it is a very serious, very doable, very difficult chilla, I find. It's this. Most of us probably read or watch the news every day. I think it would take a great, sort of mendicant kind of being not to be curious about the news. And so no doubt most of us watch or read the news every day. The idea, the chilla, is this. Before you engage in that activity, meditate for a couple of minutes. Become deliberate and conscious about the fact that you're about to open yourself to information about the world, information which will no doubt convey the dire circumstances we are in. Once you've settled yourself, again with the breath as the mechanism for finding that inner silence to the degree that that is possible, watch the news or read the particular news site with the determination that every time a person or an organization or a country or a group is mentioned or appears on the screen, that you will respond to that presence empathetically, that you will relate to whatever is being put before you through empathy. This practice is called wide-angle empathy and compassion. And as you relate to that particular individual or group or nation or organization through empathy, even if it's the NRA, the National Rifle Association, for those of you who don't live in the United States, that you send through that empathy loving compassion. Loving compassion. Stay aware as you do that so that you can recognize when you stop doing that. When something comes up that you simply cannot. No, that's the limit. I can't do it with this one. This rapist, this terrorist, this abuser, I can't do it. And that's fine, stop. But keep doing this. And the suggestion is you do it for 13 days at least, sequentially, day after day. And in the hope that you can last a little longer before you get to that break point. You might also keep in view, and this is a more subtle dimension of this, that in addition to whoever is right there appearing before you, often in my own experience, I'm thinking about who wrote that news item, who's behind that propagation, propaganda. So that it's not just the one who's immediately, it's the one behind that you can also have empathy for, compassion for. This is a powerful chilla. It will put us in a place where we are more able to recognize empathy as the primary opening to doing the beautiful. And it will also put us in touch with our own limitations, which is very important. Those of you who play musical instruments know that, a stringed instrument, for example, you tune it by taking it out of tune. If it's not out of tune, you can recognize when it's in tune. Noticing our own limitations for being the beautiful, for expressing empathy and compassion is as important as developing our ability to do that. And so we encourage you to take that up. On Tuesday, we hope, we'll send out a recording of this session along with a link to those, to the rest of those chillas, another video on doing the beautiful, which I hope you will watch. Meantime, thank you so much for being with us. This feels like we're gaining some momentum here, and as we have crested the hill of the midway point of this series, now we're coming back to love's drum. And in the next 2 sessions, our hope is to reveal for ourselves the mystery, the magic of love's drum. Let's come back to the poem. Jeannie?
What we need to do now, am I on? I don't see myself in speaker view. That's okay. What we need to do now, an invitation. Shall we not carry comfort in our handbags? Walk in time with our breath. Observe falling leaves. Catch the rhythm of tides. Sleep in moonlit, moonless nights. Pray for dreams. Shall we not carry on as we are able? Walk this side of despair. Observe our place in the great order. Catch our breath at beauty. Sleep to renew ourselves. Pray for forgiveness. Shall we not carry the old, the young, the sick? Walk in another's path to understand them. Observe rituals for the turning of the year. Catch only what we need. Sleep when our work is complete. Pray for peace. Shall we not continue? Shall we? Thank you for being here today.